Hi there, name's Dexter Mix, and this is a review for the Immersion Lab, lab number 3, Born of Blood. Well, I attended the previous year's event, Stigmata, and I thought it was going to be really hard to top what was showing there. And I gotta say, Mahi Paul, your guys and your gals, your team, did a bang up job. This lab has already been very heavily reviewed, so it's going to be very difficult to come up with something that has not already been said about this. And those who know me know I am brutally honest. People who send me products to review or services to review know I am incredibly brutally honest. So I'm not pulling punches, and when I say this is by far the best martial arts seminar I have ever attended. Trying to find one thing wrong with it, it would probably be that it was too short, and keep in mind it was 14 hours the first day, 12 hours the second day, and 12 hours the third day. Probably would have liked to have gotten more sleep. So, Mahi Paul, if you folks are listening, maybe 4 days and spread it out a little bit thinner per day, I don't know. But to go on and essentially try to review the lab, but not cheapen the reviews that came before this from martial artists, in my opinion, who are far better than myself. If I had to say anything about it that they have not already echoed repeatedly, it would be that this is not only a martial art and self-improvement event, but it's a transformational experience. And I don't use those words loosely. When you have access to the last warrior priest of a Maori tribe, not only from the martial teachings, but from the spiritual and healing aspects as well, and you get to spend an evening learning that art, if you don't leave a little bit changed, you never really were there to begin with. Additionally, when you have access to another individual who survived a literal genocide via the strength of his martial arts practice and being able to provide food for his family because of it, and now combats human trafficking due to the horrors that he saw during that time period, fighting and surviving against Khmer Rouge. To say that this is just a martial arts event would cheapen it. So, my recommendations from last year stand, and I'm just going to echo those here briefly. Number one, this is for very serious folks. If that's you as a martial artist, if you're very serious about your craft, this event's for you. If you're not very serious and you're looking more for competition-based things, this is not for you. Mahi Paul, you and your team did a great job of weeding out any individuals who would have been problematic for not just the teachers, but for the participants as well. This was a very open event. People who have well over 30 years experience are sitting down, who have, and their experiences vary vastly, their arts vary vastly, but they're sitting down in a very civil manner, going through it, showing the strengths of their arts, and there's no competition. There's no bad mouthing, there's no paper checking, there's nothing along those lines. So Mahi Paul, you and your team did a fantastic job doing that. So this is the only two things I'd really recommend for you to really do if you're going to come to one of the labs brought by the Immersion Labs. The first is go with an open mind. You're going to be exposed to the martial traditions, teachings, and tactics from cultures all across the planet. If you go in there with a set firm mind, you're not going to learn anything, because you are going to be exposed to things that are different, that what you have learned, what you have thought, and what you think you know. If you go in with an open mind, you test what you learn there when you get back home, or even testing it out a bit in practice, because you will be put through drills. if you go in with an open mind, you'll leave a better person than what you came in. Number 2, go in shape. Mentioned this last year, and again, unfortunately saw it this year as well. Several of the participants did not come in that great of shape. You saw probably about halfway through the second day, people stopped. Some people started to have to sit on the side. They could not participate because they were not in that great of shape. They didn't pace themselves or what have you. So 1, go with an open mind. 2, come into the best shape you can. Treat it almost like you're getting ready for an event or for a match. And I think you'll do just fine. I unfortunately was injured a little bit before the event, so I could not get in the best shape as possible, but I was able to go through all 3 days. I didn't miss out on any of the particular events. And by coming in at least fairly decent shape, I got my money's worth. I learned as much as I possibly could. Came in with an open mind. If you come in with an open mind, you come in great shape, you'll learn as much as you possibly can during the event. So that's my review for the lab and my recommendations for future attendees. All right, take care.